Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to P&P Live at Lunch. My name is Brittany Kerfoot, and I'm the Deputy Director of Events at Politics and Prose. And I just want to thank all of you for supporting our bookstore and supporting this book by being here today. Speaking of support, at any time during the event, you can click on the green button below to purchase today's book on P&P's website. And while I know you all already bought more than enough, we've got $5 shipping on all orders right now, so feel free to stock up on your quarantine needs or send this book to someone who could really use it right now. Please note that you can ask either of our speakers a question by clicking on another button below called Ask a Question at the bottom of your screen. And you can also read other people's questions and then vote for the ones that you would like to see answered the most. And you can enter your questions at any time during today's event. I am so excited to introduce these two powerhouse women today, and I feel so lucky that we're able to host them virtually amidst everything that's going on in the world. So again, thank you so much for being here. Elaine Welteroth is a New York Times bestselling author, award-winning journalist, producer, and former editor-in-chief at Teen Vogue, where she broke new ground as the youngest person and the second African-American to ever hold a title like this at Condé Nast publication. She has written for the hit show Grownish and has appeared on camera for a range of media outlets, including Bravo's new Project Runway, where she appears as a judge. Moderating today's conversation is Los Angeles-based streetwear, footwear, and jewelry designer Melody Ehsani. So now it is my absolute pleasure to welcome to P&P Live Melody Ehsani and Elaine Welteroth.
Hi.
Hi. What an intro. Wow.
Yes, I know. Elaine, first of all,
Hi, Melly.
so happy to be here with you and all these lovely people that have read your book because I've been dying to talk about it. I'm so excited. This is like the biggest highlights in my quarantine.
Me too. Me too. And you were the first. I was like, we have to do this with Mel. How have I not done this with Mel yet? This is amazing. This is the highlight of my quarantine too.
This is also really cool because this is the first. Is this the first thing that you've done during the quarantine?
It's the first time it's the first time that I've done anything around my book. And it's the first time in almost a year that I've convened the community around the book and talked about the book. And it just feels like in this moment, the meaning of more than enough, or, the message in more than enough is taking on new meaning. So this is a special one. And there's no one else I'd rather do this with than you, Mel. Seriously, because you kind of pulled me out of my funk and got me ready spiritually to put myself back out there and to get in front of the book. And because it's a very vulnerable thing to do, that you create your own art, and it's a weird time to be putting out anything, even if it is just re-releasing something that's already in the world.
Yeah, well, that's such a beautiful entry into this, because I felt like that would be the perfect place to start. Is that I was so surprised speaking to you the other day, because you were a little bit concerned about talking about this book because you didn't want to feel like you were pushing anything on anybody during this time. And it's so interesting how, especially as women, sometimes we forget and we're so mindful of everybody else that we're like, you don't want to do anything that feels like you're pushing yourself on it. But what I had to remind you about, and really what I was reminding myself about in that moment, was that this book isn't about you, it's about us. And how important of a resource this book that you've written is for us at this time. And so so that brings me to, why did you even write this book? Like, why did you start writing it? Why did you feel like you wanted to?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for that word, because I needed that in that moment, and it's become a little bit of a mantra. And it's interesting how the message that you become, or like, I think we're all messengers, right? And whatever the truth or the purpose that God puts in you, he's going to, whatever message you're meant to deliver, he's going to challenge you on that again and again and again. And here I am with a book that has a subtitle, Claiming Space for Who You Are, No Matter What They Say. And here I needed this, this reminder from you to claim space for the thing that I had created from a pure intention, and to trust that that intention would be carried through its impact, even in a time like this. And it was really powerful for me because it was a powerful paradigm shift that I needed, and that I think a lot of us need right now, because this is a very unsettling, uncertain time where we don't know, so many of us don't even know how we're going to make ends meet. So many of us are so worried about, our health and our security and the health and security of our loved ones, that, the idea of dreaming and being creative feels like a luxury that most of us don't have. And that even those that do feel guilty and don't know what to do with it. And so I think a lot of us are in a state of paralysis. I think those who have the privilege of being at home, of being in this creative, potentially you could be creating space for creativity, and for new things to flow through you. I think we are blocked by guilt and guilt of having this kind of privilege, and who are we to, and and so it's like, I think this is just a very emotional and spiritually challenging time, but be a person, but especially to be a creator. What were you gonna say?
No, that is exactly what you're talking about. I think is what I'm most excited about this time, because it's forcing us to sit with ourselves and get to that place where, why do we feel guilt? If this is how you serve the world, and this is how, if this is what you bring to the world, why not bring it full effect, unapologetically? Why? And so it's like, and I think that's what we're all navigating in our own way, regardless of whether you've made it or not. It's not about that. It's not about any kind of accomplishment that you've had. It's not about who you are in the world, what titles you have, because right now in this moment, none of that matters. We're all home. I mean, aside from the necessary workers that are, on the front lines, who were exhausting. That's a whole other topic, but it's really about what is it that you bring. And that's what I love about you, Elaine, is that once I met you, it was so clear. I didn't really know. I mean, I knew about the Teen Vogue thing, and I kind of on a very surface level knew who you were. But what I fell in love with was what you are and what you bring to my life and what you brought to the room when I met you. And it's just like this, and it's this like confirming, like being around you, I felt like I could talk about God, and I could talk about creativity, and I could be my full self. And that's really rare, because when I step into the room with new people, a lot of times I feel like I'm like, okay, which part of myself is safe here? Which part of myself is allowed? Yes. And what you do, not just for me, is that you allow people to be their whole self. Like, you question it, you want to know about it, and that is why you are who you are in the world. Like, that's the amazing thing. It's like Teen Vogue hired you, all these who things is because of that what, is because every room you go into, you bring that what. And that's the magic we all have that we feel guilty about, or that we feel like, is that valuable? And it's like, yes, that's the thing. That's the magic thing. That's why you are who you are.
Yes. So, preach, Melody Ehsani, to the people today. Yes. That is so beautiful. That's what we talked about a few weeks ago when we had that long marathon of a phone call catch up, that FaceTime. It's so profound, everything that you just said. And I think it speaks to the heart and soul of why I wrote this book, because a lot of it is about grappling with worthiness, adequacy, and these questions that we have been programmed to ask ourselves, like, is this enough? Am I enough? And we've been told for so long that we're not smart enough, that we're not successful enough, that we're not beautiful enough, that we're not Black enough, not white enough to do fill in the blank, to do the thing that we were called to do. And so again, I think that like the point of this book is to kind of create this powerful counter narrative to all the lies that we've been told about who we are and what makes us matter and what makes us worthy, so that we can remind ourselves, wait a minute, like, I am more than enough, even if I'm a work in progress, and we are all a work in progress, especially right now. And so it gives us that fuel to just keep going, to just putting one foot in front of the other, to just get up one more day and keep trying, and it reminds us that our voices and what we do have to offer, whatever that is of value to someone, even in this moment. And so it's interesting. Like, it's interesting how you're the purveyor of this message and this motivation that I think resonates with so many people, particularly women and women of color. And then sometimes you need that reflected back. And so what's so beautiful about the community that's been built around this book is that I am getting that inspiration as well, reflected back to me from the community, from my friends like you, and from the, people that I communicate with on the internet every single day, who just tell me what this book means to them, and all the ways that it resonates with them, and helps them overcome obstacles, those internal obstacles and those external obstacles that are placed before us. So it feels like I'm over the hump now, and I can see that clearly. I can see why this book matters in a moment like this, maybe even more now, in a moment like this than ever.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people are being forced to really go inside themselves and have to do a lot of self-reflection and ask some of the bigger questions.
Yep.
And it's so much easier and more beautiful when you have some kind of blueprint in front of you. And I think that your life is such a beautiful example of it, like your journey of your childhood and navigating all the things that you did growing up. It's such a beautiful way to find pieces of yourself in that story, and then be like, wow, if she could do it, I could do it too. Or, I would do it this way. It instantly sparks all the things, not that people would want to be like you, maybe some people do share, similar goals to you, but it really just puts us on the same page of like, wow, we're so much more connected than we think we are. We're all dealing with so much more, like so much of the same issues, but we're not aware that we are. Sometimes we think it's just us dealing with them, which it could be really lonely and isolating. But then hearing all the things that you went through is just so confirming, especially as a young woman of color. It's just like, oh, I went through that too, or I had that similar thing too. And I remember when I was first reading your book, I almost screamed when you showed up for your first internship, and with the photo shoot with Serena Williams, and you saw Marcia Hamilton there, and you knew her, and she was your thing, and you were like, this is my confirmation from, God. This is like my divine confirmation.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, it's like the kind of thing that you can't really explain to people, but it's like that magic moment where something was placed there just for you to be like, you're on the right path, like keep doing this. And as soon you get this like little thing and you're like, okay, I can keep going, I can do this. And
those
so
moments of alignment.
Yes. And so, I mean, this isn't where I was going to go next, but I guess this is where we're going next, is like, I want to know what your spiritual practice is, because you talk about God a lot. You talk about, I actually love this thing that you wrote in your book, because I feel like this is also more relevant now than it's ever been. But you said that there's a divine order, a divine flow to our lives. We don't need to have all the answers, but our job is to keep on dreaming and trusting enough to put one foot in front of the other. And it's like we're in this unprecedented time where we literally have no answers. We have no idea how long this thing is going to last. And we have to like really get deep within ourselves and trust something bigger, and trust that this is also a part of some bigger divine order, and then in turn trying to find our place in it. So how do you feel about what's happening now and your role in it, and your just all things God, like your relationship with God and your whole path of getting here? And like, I loved when you were first starting off and people would, like, anybody that would cast fear, you'd be like, this is between me and God.
It's so important. You have to do that. You have to put those barriers up. Like, don't project your fear onto me. Right. You know, especially when you're fragile.
Yeah.
It's like, no. But gosh, there's so much I want to say to that. I mean,
I'm sorry, I threw like 18 questions at you.
No, I love it. This is what I love. I feel bad because we could do this all day long.
All
so
day.
they might have to cut us off at some point. But listen, so I want to start where you left off in your last question, or what you were sharing when you asked the last question, which is about this idea of who you are, not what you are in the world. And I think we get so wrapped up in those external validators, like our title, our salaries, how many followers, you know, what people say about us, what we look like all of these external things that in what we're having to contend with now, which has always been true, is that we don't have control over any of that. And so it is not wise to stake your identity in anything that can be taken away from you. And the reality is all of those external, right? And all of those external identifiers could have always been taken away at any moment. We just were under this false, we were operating under a false pretense that we were in control. And that we had control over our circumstances, our stability, our finances, our position in the world, and that we could do through our own strength, like operating in our own strength, we could save ourselves or fix whatever it needs to be broken. Like the reality is we've never had that kind of control. God, it's always, this is my belief. I'm not preaching to anyone, but this is my belief system that I hold, that there's always been a divine order to our lives, and our only obligation is to stay in alignment with that flow. And from all good things flow from that divine place, and you have to just stay centered, stay in alignment, stay humble, stay empty, meaning like clear out space, clear the ego, clear the self-consciousness, clear out all of the fear, so that whatever it is that you were put here to do can flow through you. And I think it's the illusion of fear is, I think, what has been stripped away. And we have to look at all that's left, which is, for some of us, scary. And we haven't had to look at it maybe ever. But for some of us who are always rooted in that belief system, and who are always aware of the fact that you are not the title that you have. You are not the salary that someone gives you. You are so much more. And that's part of why I wanted to write this book, because I feel like we live in an era where all we see is the what, but we don't see the who, we don't see the why, we don't see the how, you know, we don't see how you became who you are, and like the why that drives you. We only see the success, you know, we see the success in headlines, we see like the highlight reel on Instagram. We get bits and pieces of what's in your heart and mind in tweets, which I've always found to be so unfulfilling. I'm like, I have so much more to say than I can fit in a tweet. I have so much more to say than I can put in an Instagram post. And I feel like I owe, if I'm going to now be this avatar, if there's an avatar that exists on the internet or in public spaces that's my representative, I have to do everything I can to infuse that with more of the truth of who I am, of why I do what I do, how I even got here, and honestly, to who the glory goes to, right? Like, I think a lot of, I think that this book was really about, it's more than a memoir. I've said that so many times because I just don't relate to that term, because really what it is it's testimony. It's like, and it's all the things that I wish I could tell any young woman, any young person, any person of any age who is looking for their purpose, searching for their purpose, or has a dream and has no blueprint for achieving it. And it's like, rather than looking online and comparing yourself to somebody else's highlight reel, I wished that I always could really peer into someone's heart and mind and journey and see more of the truth that I could draw from. Because I do believe when we share our stories, we unlock the truth in other people. We unlock their truth and allow them to see that they have answers that they maybe didn't realize they had for the questions they have about their own lives. And so my spiritual practice, I mean, that kind of, that gives a sense of kind of where I came from with the book spiritually and what my intention was. But it's in terms of my spiritual walk and my practice during Corona, especially, is, you know, I'm realizing that I have been called to stillness, which can sometimes make me restless. But it's such a beautiful moment of just, like, I think I've been in constant motion for maybe my whole entire life. Chasing after the thing, like going for it. I think so many people, especially ambitious, high achieving people, we set our goals, we go after them, we knock them out, we're succeeding, we're achieving, we're doing the next thing. And right now it's like, you got to sit down.
Yeah.
And you got to reflect on who you are without all that busyness and activity, and find value inside your own house. And even for someone like me, that looks like a spiritual practice of mine is learning how to cook in a way, because it's meditative and it is calling on different aspects of me. It's calling on faith. It's like I don't know how to do this thing. It's been a long time since I've been a beginner at something, and I feel like I'm a beginner in this new state of stillness. And I'm finding new things to build my confidence, and finding new ways of exercising my creativity or expressing my creativity. And I recognize that even this is an absolute luxury, and one that I'm very, very aware of. I'm very aware of the privilege that it is to be able to stay at home, and not to be overwhelmed with anxiety or fear about being sick. I mean, I'm grateful for my mental health, I think more than ever, in addition to my health, in addition to housing and partnership and friendship and, you know, internet connection, to be able to even connect with a community of people who do care. And so I think I've been in a state of gratitude, like a deep, great state of gratitude. I think I've become I've realized that I'm more simple than I ever knew. Like, I really don't need that much to be content. And that I'm capable of more than I thought I was in terms of even the small things like cooking, you know? Because like right now it's like we're about stripping down to the essentials, the very basics, like just trying to make sure that we can fulfill our like basic human needs right now. Like that's where we are right now. Like, you know, this book was written from a place of like, we were higher on like the, you know, hierarchy of needs, you know, that I learned that in school a long time ago, but like when your basic needs are met, then you can start dreaming about, and then you can start like, you know, reaching for more and looking for your purpose. But like right now we're on like back to the basics. Mm-hmm. Can I fulfill my needs today? Mm-hmm. And for me, that takes me back to the basic fundamentals of just cooking a meal, not just for myself, but for somebody else. If it all goes down, do I have what it takes to like help another human being survive? Mm-hmm. Do I know how to make something like a recipe? Like, do I have a recipe? Like, so I'm like trying to figure out my recipe game, and I feel really excited about emerging from this and being able to feed, literally, figuratively, but also like literally feed my community something new.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
God, that makes me think of so much. First of all, it makes me feel like our parents' generation. It's like they never had that luxury.
No.
So, I mean, it kind of makes sense how they're so ready kind of in some ways for this like survival, because I really feel like I know in my family, I'm the first generation that's had the luxury of exploring what my passion is or what my purpose is, you know, like my mom, no other woman in my family has ever had that luxury. You know, it's always about like some kind of the next survival thing.
Yep.
And so that's really cool. And then and so it's really interesting to go back to that. And then I also wanted to say how really, like, from what I hear you saying is that your whole sort of like the what you are, like the trueness of who you are, is really about paying it forward. And that's what I love so much about, you know, what you stand for. It's because that it feels like in a lot of ways, that's your reason for doing everything that you do, is like, it's like you figured it out on some level, you know, just to get to that next step. And I feel like every step that you've figured it out, you've sort of figured out also like, oh my God, if I could do it, you can too. So like, how can I articulate this for like everybody behind me that was also trying to figure it out? And that's why I think that your life is so important, really, is because you've figured out that essentially it comes down to service, and that's it. Really the highest form of worship or is that, but then also simultaneously recognizing that you're not exempt from anything. It's like, so you figured some things out, you too forget regularly and need reminders.
Yes.
And I think that that's the great balance of it all, is that nobody's made it. Nobody's exempt from it. Nobody's higher than the other. Nobody has more anything than anybody else. It's like, and if you do, your job is to like demystify it and be like, look, there's no real secret sauce to it. It's just like you show up and you be who you really feel like you were created to be, like whatever your divine design or blueprint is, and you just do that thing, you trust that thing.
Yeah.
And so that's what I love. And I think that that's what really connects us, especially during a time like this, is that, you know, like what you're saying with your community. It's like you wrote this book that's meant to inform people, but yet you're being more informed by it, or as informed by it as the people who are reading it, because of their interaction back with you.
Yeah. There's nothing more beautiful than that, really. And yeah, the spiritual practice, I think every single day is waking up and saying, how can I be of service? How can I be of service? And it's going to look different in times like this. But I think it's also about, I don't know. I think this moment has, I don't know. It's a great rebalancing. It's calling for a great rebalancing. I think in like the macro sense, but also in the micro as well, in our everyday lives. Like in my personal life, like I realized that there have been these great imbalances of energy spent outside the home and in certain parts of my life, and then other parts of my life have been just really neglected. And those are the things that I have the opportunity in this call to stillness to nurture those things and it's allowing my life to become more in balance, even if that means dealing with difficult emotion that I haven't looked at, and in a lot of ways it just means experiencing the sweetness of stillness that I haven't been able to experience because of my busyness of my life. And I know a lot of people feel that way too. So I think it's a beautiful, there are lessons, beautiful lessons in this moment. And I think if we're mindful about how we're spending our days, and if we are staying connected to the source through every day, asking, how can I be of service? What is this moment of stillness here to teach me? And I think we can emerge from this with some really like life-changing lessons that will hopefully be permanent. And the last thing I wanted to say about like just reflecting on some of the like gems in the book that I was able to surface while I was writing, that I've now revisited in this new normal, is this idea that like there is hustle, there is flow, and you can't successfully sustain one without the other. Right. And so that deals with this idea of balance. Once again, like I have been in a constant state of hustle, and now I am thrown into a full stop state of just flow in order to recalibrate. And like, I hope to come out of this with a more, with the ability to like hold hustle and hold flow, hold space for hustle, hold space for flow at once, and like integrate these things into my life in a way that I can be in balance. And so I think that that's something a lot of people, creative people, entrepreneurs, ambitious people who are constantly high achieving, like I think this is serving us in a way. It's helping us to come into a place of balance.
Really? Well, I mean, everything was so geared towards harder, better, faster.
Yes.
Got here, and it's like
the hustle, the grind culture. Yeah, that's what's been glorified for so long.
Yeah. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes before we're going to delve into people's questions, but I just wanted to ask you one more thing because I'm really curious, because it's also a theme that I noticed through your book that I'm going to go back to, is this whole idea of fear. And I think that you kind of do it really naturally, where you just kind of like you like tackle it every time. But I feel like this is a really hard practice for a lot of people, including myself sometimes, is like, how do you sort of navigate your fears? Because a lot of times they're very real. And, like you said, like this is between me and God. So what are the practices? Like, how are you with your friends? Like, are you very particular about the circle of friends that you keep? Is there some kind of practice that you have where you pray or meditate or do anything about it, where you breathe it in and out? Like, what are some of the more practical things? Is it food? Like, how do you stay in your core when it comes to not allow that to affect you?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. And I want to know your answer to this question too. I want to know everyone's answer to this question. Maybe this is the next book, an anthology of like everyone's compiled responses to this, because I think we all need this. I think it depends on it depends what I'm facing, but I think two things come up for me right now in terms of answers to that. One is, before I do anything that makes me scared, I take a deep breath and I close my eyes and I ask the Holy Spirit to enter the atmosphere. I ask the Holy Spirit to trade out my thoughts for theirs. I don't like to place a gender on the Holy Spirit, but I just say, trade my thoughts for yours, trade my will for yours, empty me out, create more space for you. Where there is fear, replace it with peace. Where there is, where there is ego, replace it with you and humility. Like, I identify verbally what are the things that I'm feeling right now, and I ask them to be removed and replaced with fruit of the Spirit, and I just ask sometimes that the Holy Spirit just take me over and take control and use me, speak through me, let me be an empty vessel for your will. Those are like the prayers that go through my mind. And I'm telling you, every single time, this instant peace comes over me, this instant calm fills my whole body, and I'm able to get out of my own way and do the thing that I was meant to do. That's my thing. And I don't know that works for everybody, but it's been a coping mechanism for me my whole life. And certainly through the release of this book, which was the scariest thing I've ever done, by the way. Like, I think people think, oh, you're so brave, you're so vulnerable in the book, you share so much. How'd you have it's like, this was scary. Mm-hmm. So I think the other part of this is I think that we need to stop feeding into this notion that fearlessness exists, because I don't think that courageous women are fearless. I think that they feel the fear and they do it anyway. And they've become friends with fear and they learn how to dance with fear. And so I think I have a relationship with fear. I see it, I call it out, and I then call on the Holy Spirit to give me what I need to dance with it. You know what I mean? And to make art with it. And so that's that. And then the other thing that I was going to say is that one of the most fearful times of my career was leaving Teen Vogue, because so much of my worldly identity was tied to that job. And I knew that I had so much more to say and so much more to offer. And I knew that the mission had been fulfilled from that. Like, what I was called to do, I'd done. And that I felt that, I was constantly checking in with myself while I was in that job, because I was always aware. I was always aware while I was in fashion and media, and I still am, from my own lane. But like, I was always aware that I was and wanted to be in it, but not of it.
Right.
I didn't want it to consume me and become me. I wanted to make sure that I had my own identity that was written, things that unseen, the things that are unseen that cannot be taken away from you, and that I was not too connected to this identity that had been built around me, of this avatar, And so so once I realized, I kind of always checked in with myself. I said, have I reached the point of diminishing return? And I think that's something we can all take away when we are, wherever we are in our lives, whether it's, if this can apply to a relationship, this can apply to a job. Like, I think it's important to check in with yourself and ask, have I reached the point of diminishing return? And if you haven't, that means you still are growing. You're still learning. There are still lessons for you in this. But if the answer is yes, you've reached the point of diminishing return, that means you're no longer growing. Now you're staying for reasons that are rooted in fear and lack. And that will ultimately lead to a sense of like lack of fulfillment, and you will get stuck and you will become, to me, getting stuck and not growing is the worst thing ever. It's worse than being stripped of your worldly identity and your salary and your title, all that stuff. I don't ever want to be in a place where I'm settling and I'm not growing.
Yeah,
so
you're not evolving, you're devolving.
That's it.
Stagnant.
Preach. And so when I got to that place, it's like no one else is going to know. People are going to still root for you because that's what they know. They know you for this one thing. They're going to still expect that one thing from you. They're going to still, root for you while you're there. But when you know it's time to move, like there's a quote in the book that said, when the music changes, so must your dance. Only you can hear the music and the music of your life. And only you know when you're out of step with that rhythm and it's time to move on. And so when it was time for me to move on, I knew it, but then I got cold feet and I was like, ooh. And I went to my friend. What's that?
It's scary.
It's so scary to step out of something that you've been in for so long that has come to identify you in the world. Again, whether that's a relationship, I wrote about my relationships too, because I've overstayed in relationships just as much as I've overstayed in jobs that no longer serve me. And so when I was really scared, I ended up in a conversation with one of my mentors and friends. And this is what she said to me. This is Ava DuVernay, for those of you who have seen 13th or When They See Us, she's an incredible, prolific director, but she's also an incredibly wise and courageous woman. And anybody else, I'm telling you, anybody else presented with the options that I was presented with would have said, girl, you better stay where you're at and collect that check and keep that sexy title and work in that tower. And, and she just looked at me and she said, do you want to know what I think? And I was like, you're Ava DuVernay. Yes, of course I want to know what you think. I'm at a crossroads in my life. I want to know what you think. She said, I think the universe is calling you to be a little bit braver right now. When she said that, I could not unhear it. Like ever, never, I've never forgotten those words. And I just, I call on them in moments when I'm like, I think I'm doing this out of fear. I think I'm staying stuck out of fear. I think I'm afraid. And I just think about Ava and I think about those words. I think the universe is calling you to be a little bit braver right now. And the conceit there is a little bit, we can all be a little bit more braver, a little bit braver every single day in the small ways, breath by breath, day by day, one foot in front of the other. It does not happen overnight. Change doesn't happen overnight. We don't wake up fearless, but we can step by step, day by day, breath by breath, become a little bit braver. Yeah.
It's so inspiring. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to hop in and get some of these questions because people are asking up a storm.
Are they? I wish I could see all of you. This is such a strange thing. This was supposed to be an in-person moment. I was supposed to go on a whole tour, a college tour, and I'm misconnecting with people in real life. But let's do the questions. Let's get as close as we can to real life interaction.
Cool. So the first question comes from, sorry, I just lost it. Oh, from Natalie Priani. And she says, how do you ensure that as a leader, you not only make space for yourself, but for others as well? How do you balance wanting to lift everyone up without doing it at the expense of yourself or burning yourself out?
Ooh, that's a whole webinar. Being a manager of other people is really, really challenging. I don't think we say that enough. I think we live in a world that glorifies being a boss, but we really don't ever we rarely demystify what it takes to actually be a boss. And it's really difficult, especially as women. We have fewer role models of what feminine power looks like in a corporate environment or otherwise. It, like, how does feminine power move through the world in a way that is both affirming for oneself and for others? And one thing that a friend of mine who is she's an executive, and she talked to me about servant leadership, and this idea that, giving others, we will always feel, even if we're the most gracious leader, we will feel like we're saying thank you enough, more than enough. We're going to think that we're giving enough credit, more than enough. And it's never going to feel like enough for those people that are following us. We have to be in a constant posture of servant leadership, giving more than you think you need to give, saying thank you even more than you think you need to say thank you, giving even more credit than might be what you think is due, because it's your job ultimately to create a positive, healthy culture in which everyone feels seen for and valued for who they are. I think we sometimes focus so much on productivity and we lose focus around how to set the right culture, which is foundational and fundamental. And I don't think nothing good grows from a toxic foundation. So I think that women naturally possess the nurturing instincts that actually are really beneficial in business when we bring them into our roles as bosses. But it's hard because it takes a lot of conditioning, like trying to kind of unprogram the things that we've been taught about what power looks like. It's hard-nosed. It's you take no bullshit. It's almost like we've been taught that you can't be human and be a respected leader as a woman. And so I think for me, I found power in integrating my kind of feminine power with this, like, within whatever structure of management that I'm put into. I think listening to people, collaborating, serving, being as nurturing as possible, I think that has always resulted in better output, better productivity. So hopefully that answers that question. But Mel, I want to know what you think, because you are a boss, you manage people, you are still doing it at this moment, you're still putting out, you're still producing. And behind the scenes, that means you're still managing people who are helping you do that through that production process. What advice do you have?
Yeah. I mean, I think you really touched on it. I think that the main thing is that, when I started my business the same year you started your career, in 2008, which, by the way, was in the middle of the Depression. Yes.
Literally. We didn't get to talk about that, but yes.
It was like a huge recession. And so anyway, with that said, is that we both started around that time. And when I first started, I couldn't find a single business plan that was written by a woman. I researched, there wasn't any. So just to say, like, with that said, like 11 years ago, there weren't any. And now there's a plethora of them, but it's very new. Like we're very newly trying to figure out what it looks like to be a female and a boss at the same time, or a woman and a boss. And I think for me, it's been really exciting and very challenging at the same time navigating that. But I have to remember to operate from the place of a woman, and then also remind myself that all those feminine qualities are in fact valuable, even though they're not as linear as the more masculine qualities. Like, for example, when I was creating my own business culture, one of the things that I realized very quickly was that unity was the most important element in a team working environment. And the number one,
I love that.
The number one destroyer of unity is gossip or backbiting. And so I instantly implemented that into my corporate manual of like whoever came to work for me, that there is no gossip allowed here. So that's not about celebrities. There's no gossip about our customers. There's no gossip about each other. And if I hear it or know about it or feel it, that will be cause for you to be fired. And I think that that's something that's a very feminine way of running things. You know, no man that I know of is going to come in and be like, oh, well, you know, unity is the most important thing. And if you guys talk smack about each other, I'm going to fire you. Like, no, they just want you. It's about productivity in a different way.
Right.
But we view, as women, we view productivity different, you know, and we understand certain things differently. And so I think that it's really important to honor those feminine things about ourselves and then run our business in that way. And that's always served me very well. And then knowing how valuable they are, because I have a super low turnover in my company. You know, a lot of the girls that have been working with me have been working with me for a very long time. And we've really created a family. And it's like, you know, invaluable. Like we've established trust. We've like all the things that you've said that you do. I think we all do it in a slightly different way, and it's really cool.
I love that, Mel.
All right, let's go to the next question from Kiara. As someone who is stepping into their field of study as a young woman of color and coming out of graduation during such unprecedented times, how do you navigate trying to decipher the quote unquote right decisions and trusting yourself?
Man, I think this goes back to the practice of stillness, which we are being given the opportunity to master right now. I think one thing that I use to make difficult decisions is I do a check-in with my enthusiasm, because people still say like, trust your gut and like follow your heart. And I'm like, what does your gut feel like? And like, how do I know what my heart is telling me? And how do I decipher, like, how do you know when it's fear? It could be fear that's fueling your feelings about something. But one thing for me that is clear is the feeling of enthusiasm. And it could coexist with fear, you know what I mean? You could be excited and fearful at the same time, but I do know the difference between like dread and enthusiasm. And when I'm making a decision, sometimes I think I have to block out the voices and other people's opinions, because often they will steer you in the direction of what is safest or what it looks good on paper or what sounds sexy. But ultimately, if it does not fuel your enthusiasm, I have found that things are actually not for me. It might look as it seem on, out to whoever. If it does not make me excited, it is not for me. So sometimes the decisions that I have made in my life, the scary decisions that I've made, scary.
Uh-oh.
Enthusiasm than I did, because I knew that the thing was for me. And I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier about alignment, staying in the divine order that was set for your life, which I think when you're in it and you know when you're not, when something is for you and you know when it's not, if you're able to get to a place of stillness and hear and feel that, get connected. Your instincts really are about the decision. But that doesn't, listen, I don't have all the answers in terms of how to step out in a moment of such uncertainty like this one and figuring out how to navigate a career at the beginning of a career. I think it's that's a difficult question. And the only thing I can say that Mel and I were speaking about yesterday is that, you know, we built our careers in the midst, at the height of the Great Recession in 2008. And a lot of the coping mechanisms that we developed from that time, the spirit of resilience, I think serve us both in our businesses and in our lives today. So I think remembering that you will make a way out of no way, you know, life will go on. The opportunities will come up again. We will all get through this. And when we do, we will be more resilient. We will have more inner strength. We will have more wisdom to impart because of this. So I know that a lot of things feel like this feels like a cursed moment, but I also think it's a blessed moment at the same time. And we made it through the recession. We built careers in the midst of the recession, and you know, and here we are again, having to call on all of those coping mechanisms again. So I sort of feel it's a very bittersweet time for people who are just starting their career. I feel my heart goes out to them. My heart goes out to everyone who's graduating in this climate. But I also know that this is a gift. You guys are going to be stronger than any of us because you will survive this. You will find a way to thrive in spite of this. And you will write books from this experience, and they will be manuals for the next generation to come behind you.
Speaking of manuals, Jamise Harper asked, do you have any plans for a More Than Enough journal? What a blessing that would be.
Oh, you know, TBD, but I have been, that is something that I've been thinking a lot about. I will say that. And yeah, TBD, but thank you for the inspiration. And I'm in constant communication with you guys, with my community. And I want to hear from you what you would want to see, what would be helpful to you. What could I offer you? How could I be of service to you in that format? So maybe that's a to be continued conversation in Instagram, in my DMs after this talk. But yeah, it's something that I'm thinking about.
Okay, let's take this question from Marcelina Delgadillo. Sorry for my pronunciation. What is a piece of advice you both would give to anyone trying to do something in the creative fashion field?
What you got, Mel?
No, you go first.
No, you go first.
I mean, I really love the part in your book, Elaine, where you talked about, is her name Henrietta?
Harriet Cole.
Harriet Cole. Yeah. Sorry. I really loved how, like, what a go-getter you were in terms of, like, you found her, you discovered her, you researched her, and then you just, like, called her relentlessly.
I was a stalker. I was a stalker.
So I'm not
That's relentless.
Yeah. I'm not saying be a stalker, but I do feel like if there's something that really rings true with you, if there's like something you want to know about, somebody, a company that you really want to work for, I would say, like, do a deep dive, like research everything that you can, find whatever connections that you can, and don't just do it from an empty place. Like, prepare. Like, if you were going to go in tomorrow and interview with that person, what would you have to show? What are you bringing? What is your offering? What are you willing to do? I just feel like that is sort of lost in this age of, like, the internet, where people feel like they don't have to work hard, or you may not have to be such a go-getter, but you really do. And that's something that I did in a different way than Elaine, but it really served me well. It's like I really identified the places where I felt like I would fit in, and then I researched all that I could about them, and then I put myself in a position of, like, internship after internship, even when I was broke, I made sure to make time to work for free and then work a night job that paid my bills or whatever it was, just to get in the door, just to get more information, just to like know what the company culture was about. And within a very short amount of time, I was able to tell whether it was for me or not. And so I think just really researching and then going after it hard.
Yeah. I love that.
Is good.
I love that. That's it. I kind of want to just be like what she said.
Well, I got
I would all. Well, listen. I think. Yeah, I think what you said. I really do. I think that you said it all. So cosign.
Cool. Okay. Do you want to take more questions, or do you want to do the exercise? Are we going to do that?
Let's do the exercise, because I know we have to wrap up soon. But for all of you guys, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone who made time and committed this space in your day to spend with us. And while we can't see you, we feel you. And I also want to thank Politics and Prose for creating the space for us to come together and to build a sense of community and sisterhood around this book that really does take on new meaning. Oh, by the way, I saved this moment. I got this in the mail. This is my paperback, and it's been sitting there for weeks. I have not opened it. I was waiting for this day, for this moment to open this with you guys. Jonathan opened it and he goes, "Oh, it's your books." And I was like, "Put it away. I don't want to open it." So I'm opening this with you guys. Oh my God.
Cover.
Okay, I have so many feelings. I need to put this aside. But no, this is really special. This is special. But I'm gonna have my feels about that in a moment offline. But one thing that we did at every single book launch, at every single stop on my book tour last summer, was when we moved to Q&A, instead of just doing a traditional Q&A, we did an exercise. We invited the audience to be a part of this interactive exercise that brings kind of the spirit of more than enough to life. And it is basically bringing the subtitle, which is claiming space for who you are, no matter what they say, into practice in your life. So we have this prompt, which we put at the beginning, and I saw a number of you participated in it already. But the prompt is, I am, we're gonna model this out with Melody right here. Mm-hmm. So Melody, will you join me in this more than enough exercise?
Sure.
Okay, so here's how it works. You will fill in the blank. Yes, okay. You will fill in the blank. I fill in the blank am claiming space for fill in the blank, no matter what fill in the blank may say. And what the no matter what part of it could be, it could be tangible or intangible. It could be a person, it could be your boss, it could be your husband, your boyfriend, a friend, or it could be intangible, your fear, your insecurity, your doubt, your anxiety. So be creative with it. And whatever comes up is beautiful, and it's your truth. So embrace it, own it. And I know I'm putting you on the spot right now, Mel. I know it's spontaneous, but that's what it's meant to be, a vulnerability exercise. So will you take it away and demonstrate the exercise for the people?
Sure. Okay. So just a little back piece of information is that I have this voice in my head that is like my lower nature voice, which we all have. It's my fear voice. And I call her Smelody because I hate her. And I know she's not the real me. And so anytime I have thoughts, I have like my little sister circle group. There were the like, that's Melody. That's Melody talking. That's not you. And I'm like, yes, it's Melody. It's not me. So with that said, I, Melody, am claiming space for my highest form of creativity and expression, no matter what Melody may say.
I love that so much. Cast her away. Melody's out the building. I love that, Mel.
Out of here.
I love it. Y'all, I wish you, did you guys hear that? Can you guys in the comment section just shout her out for just putting that out there? That was very vulnerable and very brave. And I love that. I'm borrowing that. I'm going to name my lower self after this.
Like Stillness.
Stan Lane.
Yeah.
I got to work on it. But so as we wrap up, I want to thank Mel, but I also want to thank you all. And I invite you to participate in thinking about that exercise. Take a moment, just take 60 seconds of silence once we close our computers and really reflect on what is it that you are claiming space for in your life and what is it that is holding you back. And it could even be a journal prompt for you to spend some time with yourself today, getting very clear about what your intentions are and very clear about what is blocking you so that you can get out, tell some, what is it, Melody, to get out the way so you can do what you were put here to do. So
wait, can I just share one from the comments because I love it?
Yes, I want to hear. Go.
Yeah, she says, I, Latoya, am claiming space for my true self, no matter what people who don't want me to grow because what they will lose is more important than what I will gain may say.
Okay.
Latoya,
you just dropped the mic. I can't even pick that mic back up.
Yeah.
That is so real. That is so real. I hope that we can save and share some of these after. Because there's some really good ones.
You have a little form on your IG, right? Maybe people can send them to you and you can repost them so we can see them.
Yeah, I will. I'll post it. I'll post the prompt on my Instagram. Yeah, in my stories, and you guys can just screenshot it and write in, and then post yours. Tag me. I'll repost you, and we can kind of keep this conversation going.
Mm-hmm. Yes, love that.
Thank you so much, Mel. You are an angel on earth in my life. I love you. I just can't even express how much I love and cherish our friendship. You are so special to me, and doing this with you means the world to me. So thank you.
Thank you. And one last thing I want to say on that note is that it's really so important when you're doing this kind of inner work, who your friends are. It's so important. Like, there's no room for competition. There's no room for jealousy. Competition is the biggest myth. It's the biggest divider ever.
Yes.
If the slightest feeling that you feel like one of your friends is competing with you or jealous of you or isn't there to accept you regardless of how bright you shine, then it's not it. And I think that having people like Elaine in my life, it's like if you can even get one of those people, it's like enough for you to like really show up and be. So be really discerning about friends, especially your girlfriends. Make sure that they see you, if not the whole you, at least enough of you. And, you know, that's why I'm so grateful for you, Elaine, because from the moment I met you, I was like, she doesn't know this, but she's going to be my friend.
I said the same thing.
We were in the taxi cab together going home, and I was like, is it weird if I say I love you?
The best part, you guys, I know you guys got to go. We're going to let you go, but this is such a beautiful like end, which is our love story. I had just told Jonathan, my partner, I have a new friend, and I think I love her. Yeah. But I'm not supposed to love her yet. It's too soon. It's too soon. I haven't known her long enough, but I really think I love her. But I don't want to get hurt. So I'm not going to, really just help me manage this. Help me manage the amount of love that I have for her. And then we were in the car and Jonathan was in the front seat. We were in the back and it was like a date. It was like a friend date. And she was like, I know it's maybe too soon to say this, but I love you. And I was like, I love you too. I was like, Jonathan, tell her how much I love her. And I just think, as adults, it's so hard to find good friends. There's no manual on how to make a friend when you're an adult. Our lives are so far apart. You live on one coast, I live on the other. It's not a convenient friendship, but it's one that's so rooted in purpose and like in a soulful connection. And so those soulful connections, man, they're so rare. They're so precious. When you have them, like you said, you have to hold on tight and nurture them and feed them and give them what they need, and reach out to them when you need them, because they're soul enriching, they're life affirming. And that's what this is for real. I know a lot of people talk about this sisterhood on Instagram and things like that, but this is real, and it means a lot. So that's an amazing way to wrap it up. I just love you, Melody. I love all of you guys at home. Thank you for taking time to spend with us today. And we might even figure out how to start a More Than Enough book club with paperback edition. So stay tuned.
Yes.
I would love for you guys to start a book club, and also Melody, everyone is asking you to write a book. So
yes,
Politics and Prose. Elaine can moderate. It'll be great.
We need that book, Mel. The world needs that book.
We need it. And guys, if you scroll up in the chat, you can see everybody's exercise. I love this exercise. Elaine did it at her event with us last year, and I think it was such a beautiful thing. So please add it to your story, tag Elaine. But we have some really good ones that people submitted in the beginning of the event. Y'all, please buy this book. I know you already have a copy, but Mother's Day is coming up. If you have a friend or a sister with a birthday in quarantine, they need this book. Click
graduation.
Yes, this is the perfect graduation gift. Melody Ehsani.chase. Check out all of her incredible pieces. I'm probably going to blow my whole paycheck there later. Ladies, thank you so much for joining Live at Lunch. Y'all took us to church. This was amazing. This was enlightening and spiritual and positive and just incredible. So thank you so much for being here. And Elaine, congrats on the pub day for your paperback. So exciting.
Thank you so much.
All right, y'all. Have a great one. Stay safe, stay well read, and we will see you next time.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.